So this last one is definitely an advanced use case. And let me set it up for you. So what we noticed a couple of years ago was that some of the more sophisticated organizations we've been working with, who've been around a long time, they can have a very large number of services. And those services can actually cross organizational boundaries. You know, the organization that hosts the data archive might not be the organization that's putting data into that archive. And the other thing that those organizations realize is that a lot of the services don't actually care about the identity information. They don't care if it's John Scullin coming to their service to get the data. They just want to know from some central infrastructure, can this authenticated user, whoever the user is, get access to the data? And they're willing to delegate that trust to the centralized infrastructure and just receive a bundle of information that essentially doesn't say who the user is, but instead says, this user, we've authenticated this user, and they have this set of capabilities or this type of privilege to access various resources. And we've seen this evolve independently in a couple different communities. The high energy physicists invented this technique on their own, and their information that they're asserting, they call them, they've got a terrible name called WLCG tokens. The astrophysicists are using something they call psi tokens. And the biologists, in particular the biocommons people that we've been working with here in the US, they have a community that they spun up, and they've been coming up with their own type of vocabulary around these access privileges. And they have an organization called the Global Alliance for Genomics and Health, or GA for GH. And what they want you to do is log in and then have the infrastructure collect your capabilities or your privileges and then push them out in something called a GA for GH passport. So if I do that, and
those three token types are all fundamentally the same thing. I mean, some variations on implementation, but it's all JSON web tokens, right?
That's right. And actually, let me do this again from the U of I. There we go, tab. So I'm going to log in. It's going to use the University of Illinois. And then what it's going to send back to the service is a passport, which is a JSON web token collection of information, which they call visas. That's what their community wants to call them. And here for the experts, we see representation of, in fact, 3 different visas. They have all different types of visas. This type of visa under type here is called affiliation and role. And the reason I have 3 is that the University of Illinois I have 3 different affiliations. I am a member, I'm staff, and I'm also an employee. So I get 3 different visas. And then the service can decide to inspect this visa and decide if it's going to let me in or not based on these visas. But you'll notice there's no information being asserted. It doesn't say about identity. It doesn't say this is Scott Koranda. It doesn't say what groups he's in. It's simply asserting this is a person that's given certain types of access based on what we know about him, and you, the service, should act on that and give them access to the data that you expect. So this is a new trend. We're seeing this take off in a number of different communities. There is a lot of work because you have to go through and you have to define the syntax for these JSON web tokens, but we do think this is the way of the future. So that was the last one, which was the JSON web tokens. And I think we're about out of time. Any quick questions?